This is another scratch and sniff. So take a leaf, kind of just rub it a bit, and then smell. This is probably Murica pennsylvanicum, although it could be Murica cerifera. The two species overlap in the mid-Atlantic region. This is bayberry. So later on, this will, it should have already flowered. I don't see any here, but this gets bayberries, which is where bayberry wax comes from to make bayberry candles. But the part of this is used medicinally for the most part, although that bayberry wax, what you do is you take the berries, you put them in a double boiler, you boil it, and the wax comes to the surface, you skim it off, and then as it's cooling, you can roll it into little balls. And you could take a little bit of essence of peppermint, not essential oil, essence of peppermint, which is basically essential oil mixed 1 part with 10 parts of alcohol to make an essence. And you drop a little of that in there, and you make these basically essence of peppermint bayberry wax little pills, and you can chew them for diarrhea. And it works very nicely. That's a really old remedy. That was used during the Revolutionary War, because diarrhea and dysentery were really common at that time. The part used is actually the bark. Okay, some people use the root bark, although the stem bark works fine. Now, one of the things you need to understand about stem barks, and this is more so with trees, but you will notice that the older bark has more lichens growing on it and things like that. So generally, if you're going to use the stem bark, you want to get stuff that's like this. It's not too old, it's not too corky, and it's not going to be covered with lichens, which are wonderful, but change the chemistry. There's other things going on with those lichens. And bayberry is an astringent. Now, most of our astringents are simply astringents. So when we talked about them energetically, they are dry, drier, driest. They're not hot, they're not cold, they're just dry. And if you ingest them, it's like, but there are 2 exceptions to that. Bayberry and witch hazel, right behind you. Bayberry and witch hazel are the 2 astringents that are actually warm and dry. In the case of witch hazel, it contains the essential oil eugenol. In the case of bayberry, I'm not quite sure what the chemical compound is, so I can't actually name it, but it too has a warming quality. So in the traditional literature, you'll see bayberry used for all the stuff that is typical astringents used for. Cuts, scratches, scrapes, diarrhea, bleeding gums, mild topical bleeding. You'll see it for all that. But you'll also see this whole other area of use for bayberry where it's being used as a sort of catalyst. It's being used small amounts are being added to other herbs to enhance their overall activity, to enhance digestion, to enhance circulation. And generally with most astringents, with the exception of these 2, they don't enhance circulation, but this one does. And so you'll see this in a lot of old Thomsonian formulas. So Samuel Thomson, it was in what he called his composition powder, which was his primary remedy for acute colds, influenza, things like that. And it's a fairly small amount of it's in that formula, although it's definitely a significant but smaller part of the overall formula. And so this is bayberry.